Hello, welcome back to Phoenix Wright, Ace Attorney. It's me, Abe Prustian. I still have Jake Marshall here on the stand. Last time I left off when Phoenix was saying that he needed to present to Marshall the true reason why I guess he couldn't just let it die. Okay, do we know why he couldn't just forget it? Was allegedly dancing in the evidence room. We have it on videotape, you guys. Oh, right. I should be looking specifically, I think, at these case files, I guess? Sentenced to death, victims, Jones, Kirby, Bates, Knight, Moss, Marshall. Neil Marshall. Is that somebody related to Jake, I assume? Okay, I will present it. Officer Marshall, I think I understand. I think I know why you care so much about the SL9 incident. Sounds like you've been sipping too much cactus juice, partner. I have the SL9 incident file here. The name Marshall is mentioned here. In a list of murder victims. Neil Marshall, are you related to this man? Neil Marshall? Yeah, I'm sure you've heard the name. 2 years ago, he received the same lousy prosecutor award you got. Oh, interesting. What? A prosecutor? A good one who the judge apparently doesn't know? Must be talking about the King of Prosecutors Award. Now I remember. Prosecutor Neil Marshall. He handled the SL9 case before I did. And then he was killed as part of it? Jesus. That's right. He was killed. And the case fell into your hands. But what's his relation to you? He was my brother. He's also got a cowboy hat. Oh, God. He was investigating the murders with Damon Gant, the then deputy chief of police. Uh-huh. The group of detectives I was part of worked under them. We were desperate to prosecute the killer. This is the killer, Joe Dark. My brother fought Dark and was killed. That was the first time Dark left behind any evidence. That was all we needed. Huh. He was arraigned and incarcerated. The case was finally closed. At least, according to the public records. What do you mean? My brother couldn't have been killed by Joe Dark. I knew my brother better than anyone. No one could have beaten him in a fight. And that's it? That's your reason for your insane actions? There's more to my brother's death than what the records say. No matter how much you try to hide it, you can't fool me. Interesting. So he thinks that Edgeworth and the other prosecutors are hiding it. And I bet Angel Starr is too. Like, she also thinks that. Well, at least one thing's for certain. Now we know what happened at the police department on the day of the crime. That was the last day the SL9 case could be reopened. Not satisfied with its resolution, Officer Marshall planned to steal the evidence. Disguising himself as Detective Goodman, he entered the evidence room. Officer Meekins confronted him, so he rendered him unconscious and fled. Yes, this mystery has finally been cleared up. No murder took place at the police department that day. Except for all the blood. We still haven't explained that. Yeah, you're still in this bind, Phoenix. The things that happen by chance never cease to amaze. At exactly the same time as the murder at the prosecutor's office, this fake murder was going on at the police department. Why did they think there was a murder? This is something that's always kind of confused me. There was no body. Meekins wasn't arrested, like, at the time, saying, I did it, I murdered a man. You know, there was just all the blood, I assume? So where did that come from? Why did the police think there was a murder? Chance? It's got to be more than just that. So if no one was murdered at the police department on the day of the crime, that means the murder in the prosecutor's office parking lot was the real one. Which in turn means only one person could have committed the crime. Chief Prosecutor Lana Skye. Yeah, we're not going to stand for that. But wait! A verdict wasn't reached in yesterday's trial. Which is why we examined the incident at the police department today. But there's only one reason the defendant was not convicted yesterday. There yet remained the mystery of the simultaneous murder at the police department. Simultaneous. Seems to me, this boy's got the draw on you, partner. All the mysteries at the police department have been resolved. No doubt about it. Our sole murder took place in the prosecutor's office. The only suspect is Lana Skye. And the testimony of one Ms. Angel Starr is completely incontestable. If you have a response, make it a single word or less. Ah. Oh, the smarm, Edgeworth. Arg! It's not even a word, Phoenix. I rest my case. Seems this trial has reached its conclusion. There's no room for doubt. Oh dear. How are we going to get through it this time? Well done, Mr. Wright. Thanks to you, I didn't need to waste my time disproving the alleged murder at the police department. There's no doubt what I proved today is true. The apparent murder on the security camera's tape really was fake. But I didn't realize that would end up proving Lana guilty. Yeah, whoops. Whoops, whoops, whoops. Now then, the time for the verdict has arrived. This court finds the defendant. Okay. Who's interrupting now? Emma! Your Honor, wait. Emma? The defense has an objection. A scientific objection. Right? What do you mean, right? Mr. Wright. Are you this girl's guardian? Your Honor? Oh, in a sense? Please, Your Honor. All I'm asking for is a minute of your time. Please hear me out. Mr. Edgeworth, please. I don't want to leave any loose ends. You want a minute? I'll give you 3. Okay. Alright, Emma. I was kind of in shock. I mean, finding out the SL9 incident referred to the Joe Dark killings. Now that she mentions it, the names of both Skye sisters were in that file. Yeah, they were both witnesses. But that's when I figured it out. I mean, what Officer Marshall was trying to do that day. So I knew his fingerprint had nothing to do with the crime. That left only one thing. The other handprint. You mean the traces of blood found on Detective Gumshoe's locker? But no fingerprints were found on it, right? No, but I figured if I examined it scientifically, I'd be sure to find a clue. So I ran over there and looked at it again. Huh? So, did you find something? No. Huh? Sorry, I guess I'm not much of a scientific investigator after all. Huh. Is that all? Please don't be mad. I'm just a high school student. And I'm just an attorney. But Mr. Wright, those traces of blood are the only clue we have. If we can't find something wrong with them, please, Mr. Wright, you're a professional. If anyone can save Lana, it's you. Me? Oh boy. Time's up. Now then, Mr. Wright. With regard to the incident at the police department, does any reasonable doubt remain? It appears the defense is troubled by the other blood mark. Looking at the floor plans, a handprint was discovered around here. Is there a problem with this? Mr. Wright, I'm sorry I can't be of more use. But still, if you can't find anything wrong with that blood mark, Lana will be... Please answer my question, Mr. Wright. We don't have all day. Yes, Your Honor. If ever I've needed to concentrate, it's now. Shit, what could be wrong with that handprint on Detective Gumshoe's locker? Could there be something I'm missing? Okay, well, we'll object. This handprint left at the crime scene clearly shows a contradiction. Does it, though? The only thing that seems clear is you're grasping, Mr. Wright. You've been staring pretty intently at those floor plans. Tell me, is there a problem with them? Yes, this is strange. Take a good look at these floor plans. Something is missing. Missing? You mean something hasn't been drawn on there? Yes, something that, when drawn, will completely change the meaning of the blood mark. Is it the blue badger? Let us pray the defense isn't simply trying to buy time. Very well, Mr. Wright. With all this evidence here, there's gotta be something I can use. The question is, which item can prove something is missing in the floor plans? My only guess is this fucker. The blue badger. What about that piece of plywood? The blue badger, mascot of the police force. Defender of truth, guardian of proof? Explain yourself, Mr. Wright. Please look at the floor plans of the crime scene. The blue badger is not on here. I was right. So? So watch what happens when we put him in. This is where he was dancing at the time of the crime. Yeah, he's covering that locker. I was thinking he was closer to the bottom of this, the other wall. But if I think about it, Marshall and Meekins did walk in front of him. So it would have had to be back by the locker. Well, what? Oh, he sees it. That's right. So long as the blue badger is dancing here, it would be impossible to place a handprint at this spot on the locker. What? Also, Marshall, you would have had to be the one to place it. Because he was the one wearing gloves and had, like, the bloody shoulder. So that means, just exactly what does that mean? It means it can't be done. What are you saying? Blood traces were undeniably found on that locker. I had a yawn. I said, don't look at me, I didn't put it there. Mr. Wright, think it through scientifically. Emma, on that afternoon, Officer Meekins was the one who brought the blue badger to the evidence room, right? After he put it down, it would be impossible to leave a handprint on that locker. So it's whoever was in the evidence room before him. Because we also know someone had to steal that evidence. I think it's Damon Gant, if I had to guess. But that is still just a guess. So that must mean this blood mark was left there before the blue badger was brought in. Just one moment. I will not allow such far-fetched balderdash in my courtroom. May sound far-fetched, Your Honor, but it's the only possible explanation. On February 21st, in the police department's evidence room, blood was spilled not once but twice. Right? We also know about the pools of blood. But how? One time was captured on this tape, taken by the security camera. Officer Meekins cut his hand, from which a trivial amount of blood fell. The problem is, the other time. Yeah, you can't ever see that locker, so you can't see that the mark is there. Someone bled prior to the struggle shown on this tape. It had to have been Detective Goodman when he was really murdered. Huh. Because he would have had to be the one to open the locker. Maybe Goodman did. I'm casting aspersions on Damon Gant for no reason at this point. I mean, we'll see. But because he would have had to open the locker, so maybe he did to get all of the stuff out, and he was murdered then? That's ridiculous. I refuse to accept your absurd claim. The murder portrayed in the security tape has been proven to be a fake. However, that does not explain the blood mark found on the locker. So then, assuming this murder you purport really happened, when did it take place? I demand you show evidence that proves when it occurred. When did the first incident occur? To summarize, the defense claims that prior to Officer Meekins being cut by Jake Marshall, who's posing as Detective Goodman, another incident took place in that evidence room. That's right, the blood mark on the locker proves this. Very well, then tell us. When did this first incident occur? As Mr. Edgeworth said, proof must be presented. Proof that shows when the murder took place. There's only one piece of evidence that can show that. Now then, will the defense please present its evidence? What shows when the first crime took place? I mean, I assume they mean this. 4:20. Somebody came in who we don't know who it is. Maybe even with Goodman. Killed him. Cleaned it up. And left in 20 minutes? That's my best guess. If the crime took place inside the evidence room, then the killer would have had to enter it. And in order to do so, an ID card would have been required. An ID card? Oh! The ID card record. Officer Meekins brought the Blue Badger panel into the evidence room at, let's see here, 4:50 p.m. If the crime took place before that time, then it would be 4:40 p.m. Ah! Ah! Miles Edgeworth? Just what have you done? I never would have figured you had the nerve, boy. Drop the act, witness. It doesn't take a lot of thought to figure out it couldn't have been me. Nope, I ain't getting it. I'm afraid I don't understand either. It's clear from the luminol test that blood was there. However, when the second crime took place, both Officer Meekins and Officer Marshall failed to notice the blood. Right, it had been cleaned up. That means the blood from the first crime was wiped away by the real murderer. I would have had just 10 minutes to murder the victim, carry his body away, and clean up the blood. Unfortunately, that's physically impossible. That would mean the crime must have taken place before Mr. Edgeworth entered the evidence room. Okay. My new theory is that it was Damon Gant, because he's like one of the only other few people involved in this. Killed him, cleaned it up. He dropped the body in Edgeworth's car. Edgeworth doesn't know it, drives back to the chief prosecutor's office. Lana somehow finds it, or is told about it, and covers up for Gant, I guess? It's my best guess. It's not great, though. Let's look at the chart again. There's only one other card number remaining. 77777777. Talk about a lucky number. But wait, that doesn't make sense. How could Detective Goodman have entered the evidence room? Since there's no record of his card being used beforehand, he must have entered along with the real murderer. Exactly, yes, that was my thought. That's the only plausible explanation. He went in with the sevens. Mr. Edgeworth, please look into this ASAP. Find out whose ID number is 77777777. That's 1 7 too many, Your Honor. Unfortunately, I'm unable to look up the owner of that ID card. At least at present. What? Explain yourself, son. The ID number 7s belongs to someone with the rank of captain or higher. Someone who is a so-called executive officer. We don't have the authority to inquire into such a person's identity. It's gotta be Gant. But that's ridiculous. Just how... I'm not finished talking, Mr. Wright. There's one situation in which we can be granted such authority. If an official charge filed against an executive is accepted. An official charge? You're all alike, aren't you? With your cover-ups and your forgeries. That's how the prosecutor's office operates. I take pride in my work, Officer Marshall. I would appreciate it if you would keep your slander to yourself. Slander, is it? Okay. Let me ask a question. Yes? No, not to you. To her, the defendant sitting over there. Your own little executive. Lana? Don't be stupid. She's been charged with murder. Of course we've looked up her ID number. And it's not 7s. Don't play me for a fool, partner. That's not what I want to ask. All I want to know is one thing about that incident. The SL9 incident? Answer me this, Chief Prosecutor. In that trial 2 years ago, did you really only use legitimate evidence? Guess that's the question. Do you need the witness to repeat his question, Chief Prosecutor? I heard him fine, Mr. Edgeworth. 2 years ago, I was in charge of the prosecution for that trial. At the time, we felt the powerlessness of the law. At least, I did. Lana. I became a prosecutor in order to suppress crime with the law. But before I realized it, we were the ones being suppressed by the law. Defendant, just what are you saying? I'll ask you again, Chief Prosecutor. During that trial 2 years ago, did you really present all the evidence in court? Can you look me, an investigator in that crime, in the eye and say that you did? Chief Prosecutor, you didn't. I don't have to, Officer Marshall. Huh? Why won't you answer him? Drastic crimes require drastic measures. That's just the way it is. It's interesting to say that they were being suppressed by the law because, I don't know, it's like you want to find justice, but I'm fairly anti-carceral, and so too much of our actual justice system is heavily biased towards the prosecution, that it's hard for me to take serious the idea that the prosecution is under some huge duress by having to, like, use only the evidence they find, for example. So, anyways. We did what we had to in order for him to get the verdict he deserved. But Lana, even if it involved forging evidence. Interesting. So, So it sounds like she forged it and passed it on to Edgeworth as legitimate. And so there are all these rumors that he forged it, but he didn't. Seems to be what they're implying. See? That's what I'm talking about. No. No! Order, 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 order! Yeah, that is a big hubbub. Lana's remarks caused such a stir. The chaos in the courtroom could not be quelled. The conclusion of the trial would have to wait until the following day. All right. That's how we get out of this, I guess. All right, 3:12 p.m., Wright and Company law offices. I'm so sorry, Mr. Wright. I'm sorry for what my sister said. Yeah, drastic crimes require drastic measures. It's just the way it is. We did what we had to in order for him to get the verdict he deserved. I didn't know. I never knew that the SL9 incident was just another name for the Joe Dark killings. Sounds like everyone's heard about these killings but me. Lana wanted Dark convicted so badly. That's why she used me. That's why she used what happened to me. What do you mean, what happened to you? It's all there in the file. Joe Dark's last victim was Prosecutor Neil Marshall. When he murdered Officer Marshall's brother, he left behind an incriminating piece of evidence. But what did you have to do with those killings, Emma? On the night Prosecutor Neil Marshall was murdered, Joe Dark tried to kill me. I was afraid of that. What? He tried to kill you? Officer Marshall's brother, Neil, was only trying to save me. So that means you... Yes. I was a witness in the Joe Dark trial. I didn't see that one coming. You didn't! It was in the fucking file, Phoenix. Did you not read it? Anyways, let's talk. The SL9 incident. Happened 2 years ago. It was right about this time of year, too. There was a terrible thunderstorm that day, unusual for the season. I was alone in my sister's office. We were planning to eat dinner together once she finished her work. Sounds familiar. Like, that's what happened with Mia, right? She was waiting for Maya to come so they could go eat dinner when they finished work. And that's when she got murdered. I assume that's supposed to be a parallel. I don't know. Then suddenly, this terrifying man came bursting into the office. So was he there to kill Lana? Joe Dark. It seemed like he was running from someone, pulled out a knife and screamed at me. I didn't know what was going on. Just then, Prosecutor Marshall showed up. Jake Marshall's brother. Joe Dark tried to take me hostage. But before he could, Mr. Marshall tackled him. Then, what happened? I'll never forget it. Lightning struck and the lights went out. Suddenly, a bolt of lightning flashed outside the window, lighting up the office for an instant. What I saw then burned a permanent picture in my mind. I can still see it now. A permanent picture? We'll get to that. I don't remember the moment when Dark stabbed Mr. Marshall. So you weren't able to testify about that? No, I was only asked about when I was attacked. That must be why she made up the crime. Made it up? You mean provided bogus evidence? The prosecutor's office wanted that guilty verdict so badly. Lana forged the evidence, and Mr. Edgeworth used it. Edgeworth? Yes, but I'm sure he didn't know anything about it. That does actually seem to be the implication. He couldn't have known he was being given false evidence. He Even so, that's when it all started. The rumors about Mr. Edgeworth, I mean, it's all my fault. If I could have just testified properly, none of this would have happened. So it's true, even though he may not have known it. Edgeworth really was involved in falsifying evidence. After that case ended, Lana was never the same. She became cold like she is today. She must not have been able to face up to what she did, especially not to Emma. Permanent picture. What did you see in the instant that crime occurred? Dark knocked down Mr. Marshall and raised his knife. Neil Marshall was stabbed right in front of this poor girl. I don't remember what happened after that. Apparently I passed out. I mean, that feels like pretty strong evidence, but, you know. When I came to, Lana was cradling me in her arms. Poor Emma. You've been through so much. I couldn't bring myself to testify about that instant. I tried, but the words just couldn't come out. I drew a picture, but it wasn't any good. 2 years ago. You must have been 14? That's understandable. Once it was all over, I made up my mind. I decided that when I grew up, I'd become a scientific investigator. I wanted to be able to fight crime with my testimonies. Oh, Emma! And find the evidence to make an airtight case. That way, Lana would never have to forge any. I see. I think I'm finally starting to understand what makes Emma tick. But there's still something that bothers me about that crime. Okay, something puzzling. Something that's puzzling me, Emma. What is it? You said you were in Lana's office at that time, right? That's right. Why then would a serial killer come running in there? That is a good question. Not only that, but he was being chased by a prosecutor? Oh, there's no mystery there. Joe Dark had been taken in for questioning that day. Taken in for questioning? You mean by the police? Of course. This happened at the police department. He tried to run away halfway through the interview and fled into my sister's office. But why did he run all the way over to your sister's office? Because the detective offices in the questioning room are right across from the elevator. Across from the elevator? But Lana was the chief prosecutor, wasn't she? No, silly. Didn't I tell you? 2 years ago, Lana was a detective. Huh. That's even more impressive than to go from a detective to becoming an attorney and then the chief prosecutor in 2 years? I feel like I can't decide if it's like anime logic where everybody's too young for the stuff they do, or if it's like she and Marshall have dirt on like Damon Gaunt, for example, and so he's promoted them, but I don't think he has the power to promote prosecutors. I don't know. Not sure. She was the best in the entire force. What? That's news to me. After the Joe Dark case, she was transferred to the prosecutor's office and made chief prosecutor. Oh, like immediately. Lana used to be a detective? Do you not have to be a lawyer to be chief prosecutor? Maybe it's more of a managerial position. I better have another talk with her. Okay. That is what we will do then. Anything I need to present to you? You know, oops. Here, what about this? The call made to you. According to Miss Starr's testimony, your sister used her phone right after the murder to call you, right? But she hung up right away. It was a bad connection. I couldn't hear anything. It was an underground parking lot, I suppose. She did say something about a muffler. But like I said, she hung up right away. I think we might have already asked her about that. What about this? Because she... Oh, this is Marshall's fingerprints, not the other one. Okay. I think I'll just move and go talk to Lana. Lana! Mr. Wright, it seems I keep causing you trouble. Falsifying evidence? I didn't think you were the type. Criminals don't mind playing foul, why should we? But Lana, if you're wrong, an innocent person might be found guilty. Believe me, I understand the risks. Lana, Emma told me about you. Oh? About how you were a detective 2 years ago, and how the SL9 incident was the reason for your transfer to the prosecutor's office. That's right. Could you fill me in on the details, especially about that unusual change of jobs? I suppose you have a right to know, Mr. Wright. Okay, let's talk about it. Today's trial first. A lot of revelations were uncovered at the trial today, not the least of which was the fact that this case is largely connected to another one 2 years ago. Evidence from that case was stolen as well, though I expected as much. I know how obsessive Officer Marshall can be. That trial, it really wasn't fair, was it? I believed in you, Lana. I believed that no matter what happened, you'd always stick to the truth. It couldn't be helped, Emma. At that trial 2 years ago, I sold my soul. Well, all drama aside, the fact of the matter is, at 5:15 there was no murder at the police department. Tell me it's not true, Lana, what the witness, Miss Starr, said about you stabbing Mr. Goodman with a knife. Well, Lana? Lana, I don't understand. Why won't you tell us? Emma, this doesn't involve just me. I don't think I've ever seen Lana look so phased before. Interesting. They're switching her to that side view a lot, which is interesting to me. Detective Lana Skye. It's true, I was a member of the police force 2 years ago. She was amazing. They still talk about all the cases she and Chief Gant cracked together. Chief Gant? He was the deputy chief of police back then, but he still worked the crime scenes. Damon Gant. He was everything I aspired to be. They were the best team ever. They solved crimes before the reports could even be filed. Emma really idolizes her big sister. But now you're chief prosecutor. What happened? I always planned on becoming a prosecutor. The reason I became a detective was to gain experience investigating crime scenes, so you could use that experience in court, right? Gant's help in the SL9 case was crucial to its resolution. See, he's in this deep. He has to be. After that, he became chief of police and arranged for my transfer to the prosecutor's office. Maybe I should ask more about this investigation of theirs 2 years ago. Yeah, let's. Dark investigation. 2 years ago, I was second in command of the detectives investigating Dark. Second in command? That means the investigation lead was Damon Gant, right? Yes, Deputy Chief Gant and I shared the same office and the same investigations. So Dark could have been trying to go after Gant instead of Lana. They even had the same office. We led a team of the best detectives on the force. Detective Goodman, whose case it was, Jake Marshall, and Angel Starr. It was the first time Marshall worked with his brother. He was quite gung-ho. I wonder which Marshall she means here. I think maybe Jake. Also, I just noticed in this picture that Lana is essentially in the same outfit, but she doesn't have the little octopus on her choker, and she doesn't have the onigiri rice on her hat. But I love that it's otherwise the same. Oh, man. Without a doubt, Joe Dark was the serial killer. We asked him to come in for questioning. We were desperate for evidence. That was when his final murder took place. When he tried to murder Emma. Okay, is the implication here that someone else, like Gant, murdered Neil Marshall in order to pin this on Joe Dark? Because that feels real bad. That's a horrible thing to do. I don't know. Again, I'm casting aspersions, but like... Anyways, when he tried to murder Emma, Prosecutor Marshall was trying to save me from Dark. You see, the first person who happened upon the scene of the crime was me. Now you tell us. First one at the scene. Damon Gant and Neil Marshall were the ones questioning Dark that day. The investigation was in its final stages, and Dark must have suddenly panicked. So we waited until Gant and Marshall let their guards down, then fled the room. From there, he ran straight to the office shared by Deputy Chief Gant and myself. That's where he found me. So you were the first person to run to the scene, Lana. It appears so. I was filing some papers while Gant and Marshall were questioning Dark. When I returned to my office, I saw 3 bodies on the floor and smelled blood. 3 bodies? Prosecutor Marshall, the victim, Emma, who had passed out, and the suspect, Joe Dark. During the struggle, it seems Mr. Marshall struck a final blow before he died. Joe Dark had incurred a minor concussion and lay unconscious. What did you do? To be honest, I panicked. I picked up Emma, carried her out of the room, and just held her. Can't blame her, after all her sister must have gone through. After that, I placed Dark under immediate arrest. Let me get this straight. You were all involved in the SL9 incident. That's right. Quite a coincidence. I don't buy it. What are you saying? There's no way everyone involved in this trial was also involved in that incident, just by chance. That case was solved 2 years ago. At least one person went to extremes because they didn't believe it was truly solved. Officer Marshall, yes, his actions came as a surprise to me as well. Ever since his brother died, he changed completely. I guess he wasn't convinced with the ruling against Joe Dark. Life doesn't end with the closing of a case. Everyone has to live the rest of their lives with their memories. That case just might not be over yet. Emma was assaulted by Dark at the police department, right? Yes, in the office that Damon Gaunt and I share. The office that Mr. Gaunt now occupies by himself, the chief's office. Maybe we should have a look at the chief's office, the site of the final SL9 murder. Hell yeah, we will. Anything I want to present to you? Now that I can. What about this knife? Attorneys and prosecutors have no business showing evidence outside court. It's taboo, especially when the interests of both parties are involved. She really means it. Lana. Okay. So maybe not. Alright. We'll just go to the Criminal Affairs Department. Also, I can never figure out if his name is supposed to be Damon Gaunt or Gant. And I'm afraid that I probably switched between them because I can't remember. So, if that annoys you, my apologies. I don't see Detective Gumshoe anywhere. You seem kind of quiet around here today. You're right. Chief of Detectives seems the same, though. Why don't we go look for some other people to talk to? Right. We could come back here later. Okay, I wasn't sure, but I think if I go here... Oh! Howdy, Bambina. Oh, Mr. Marshall. Never thought things would turn out this way when I woke up this morning. Que Sarah, Sarah. You never know where life will lead you, eh, Bambina? I should have known my luck had run out when old Billy dried up this morning. Billy? Must be his pet cactus. Say, where are you headed? Just over to the prosecutor's office for a little interrogation. It's a voluntary appearance, but we all know I won't be coming back. Sorry, but can't go in the evidence room today, partner. But Mr. Marshall, why did you do it? Why do prospectors head west? If ever there was a case I needed to know the truth about, it was that one. Before you turn yourself in, Mr. Marshall, would you mind telling us exactly what happened? Looks like I won't be getting a steak lunch today. Okay, the dark trial. Something was fishy about that trial from the beginning. It wasn't just me either. All the detectives thought so. What do you mean, fishy? Some of the facts reported were inconsistent with the evidence we found. For example, the murder weapon. The murder weapon? You mean that switchblade knife with the broken tip? That was Joe Dark's all right. But in the initial autopsy report, a question was raised. A question? The blade of the knife was not a perfect match with the wound the victim sustained. What does that mean? It means there is a good chance the knife was not the murder weapon. Oh. However, in the report that was finally submitted, that possibility had been erased. Could the facts have been concealed with forged evidence? That case left behind scars on all of us. The scars that the SL9 incident left behind? Alright, Prosecutor Marshall. I got the looks, but he got the brains. He was one of the best prosecutors around. I had just made detective when it went down. It was our first case together. How old was he, your brother? He was 27 at the time. He was awarded the highest honor that very day. The highest honor? You mean the king of prosecutors? I knew it. What are you looking at me like that for? That's an honor for a prosecutor. Mr. Marshall must have really been close with his brother. The day the SL9 incident took place, that wasn't the same day as... That's right. It was the day of the evidence transferal. She did say it was around this time of year. Interesting. It was drizzling that morning, and by nightfall there was thunder. Can't believe 2 years have gone by already. Tried to steal the evidence so the case wouldn't die. Apparently someone tried to stop you. Detective Goodman was murdered, and the evidence locker was empty. Yeah, so no one seems to want to ask who took the evidence, although at this point it seems like it's probably whoever was with Goodman and murdered him. Okay, scars. There was something going on behind the scenes in that case. We all knew that later. Every detective involved in that investigation, save one, was taken care of. Huh. Miss Starr was fired, and I was demoted and boxed away in a tiny room. What about Detective Goodman? If they did something to him too, the commissioners would get suspicious. No, they were careful enough not to be too obvious. They? Who are you talking about? Don't get upset, Bambina. I mean Damon Gant and Lana Skye. Yeah, of course. Because they played fast and loose with the case, and they didn't want the detectives who would know so to stick around. This really does support my theory that Damon Gant killed possibly Neil Marshall and definitely Detective Goodman. Gant and Skye. The investigation lead, Damon Gant, and his second-in-command, Lana Skye. There wasn't a person on the force who hadn't heard of that duo. That case was the biggest step in both of their careers. After the case ended, Lana transferred to the prosecutor's office, right? Yeah, Damon Gant, the new chief of police, arranged for that to happen. She's never been the same since she left. Huh? Everyone who knew her said so. Chief Prosecutor Skye was totally different when she was a detective. Now that he mentions it, Emma said something like that too. Tell me, what happened to my sister? Sorry, Bambina. Her secret is too well guarded. I never found out. Lana's secret. It all started 2 years ago. So there you have it. That's my story. Did you enjoy it, partner? It was certainly enlightening. There's one thing for sure I found out in court today. That boy Edgeworth isn't my enemy. He was the one who used falsified evidence to get a guilty verdict. But someone else was the one who gave him that evidence and planned everything. That someone is Damon Gant. Yeah, it is. Don't believe me? Well, I don't blame you. I won't even be a patrolman after today. Too bad I won't be around to work with you when you become a real scientific investigator. Aww. Adios, Bambina. I love that he believes in her. That's amazing. Okay. I'm not 100% sure where else to go, and I think I'm pretty much out of time. So I'm going to call it here, and then next time I will continue. But also, look, I was right. There is a handprint on the blue badger's face. I saw that in the video. I don't know what it means. I don't know. Maybe it just means that Detective Gumshoe is bad at painting things. That might be all. Anyways, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you the next time. Bye!